Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Jennifer Lee Disney, and I'm honored to be here interviewing a mother-daughter team who have both served on the South Carolina Mothers Association, the Mother of the Ward Selection Committee. And the two women we are interviewing now is Miss Callie Wienges and Miss Carol Laffitte. Thank you both for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us in your beautiful home as well. So I want to
Pleasure.
start. I'll ask one question and we'll give a chance for each of you. Callie can answer first and then Carol can answer. And some of it will be overlapping because of your joint experience as a mother-daughter family growing up. But I think this will be a beautiful way to kind of capture what we're here to talk about, which is women and mothers and families.
Right.
So let's start with when and where were you born and raised? And tell us a little bit about your family, education, and early childhood experience.
I was born in Farnville, South Carolina, which they used to call the capital of the whole state because we had a senator from there, a governor from there, and a member of the House of Representatives from there. And one lived across the street, one next door, and one around the corner from us. And we were always seeing the politicians' cars driving in and out of the driveway. And we'd stand on the picket fence and watch over there. And my dad would say, y'all quit watching over there. These big black cars would run in. I'm sure it was somebody who wanted to get a bill passed and wanted their consent. And it was fun to watch all these politicians, they were so nice to all the children here in the neighborhood.
Wow, that's great. It's a great memory.
It is.
Well, I was born in Columbia, South Carolina, and Daddy was in the field farming when Mama went into labor, so somebody had to get clean clothes for him to get to Columbia so he could see me. But I grew up here on Singleton Plantation, and just about the best childhood anybody could have. Daddy would let me go to work with him until I started first grade, so I rode the combines and the tractors, and it just was probably the best childhood anyone could have.
Wow, it's beautiful. I love that. Tell us about your young adult life and when you started your families.
When I was married to Othniel Wienges, who lived here in St. Matthews on a farm, I'd never lived on a farm, but I had visited people on the farm, and I had to get used to a lot of things. Like if I needed something for him to do around the house, I would say, go out in the field and get my husband. They said, we can't stop the whole process of gathering a crop just to see about you. So I learned quickly that the farming came first, depending on the weather, which was so important and still is.
Well, one thing I might say is Mama could fix things better than Daddy because he was never available, so she just figured out
With my screwdriver and my hammers and all.
how to fix it.
Yeah, and of course my dad would let me follow him around when he was fixing things for Mother, so I learned a lot from him. And it was fun doing that. But on the farm here, I had to learn a lot in a short period of time. My father-in-law would say, now, you know, when we're busy on the farm, you'll have to take his dinner to the field with him, and he'll just get off the combine and come sit in the car with you. And I said, okay, like, well, what do I do, really? Nobody gave me any instructions, so I just said, so I took a towel and wet it on one end and had it dried on the other, because actually after you've been cutting in a field like that, your face is just like soot, from all the dust and things. And he would park, I'd give him the towel, he'd clean off his face, and then I fixed his dinner, and the first thing I took him, and they laughed at me, all the men in town, all the farmers in town laughed at me for years, I took him some fish. And he said, Callie, I don't know how I'm going to eat this. And I said, well, he was dirty and he had the towel, but he needed to figure out a way to get the meat off the bones. So I said, oh, I'm sorry, I'll do better next time. And I had a learning experience by taking his meals. But one thing he did love was he called sweet iced tea. All the people in this area, don't you think, like sweet iced tea? Mm-hmm. Anyway, I started putting pineapple juice in it and all these good things. Of course, that made him more thirsty, I guess. I'm not sure. But he enjoyed having somebody come out there and give him a little break. And he worked there side by side with the help, which I thought was a very smart thing to do because, you know, if your help sees you working too and working side by side with them and getting dirty like they were and eating your meal in the field like that, you know, they had a little more respect for you, and also they were more willing to do what you asked them to do. And so I enjoyed working with the help too, and we became good friends. All of them would walk through this road right out here that you see going down, what they say, we're going to get the mail. And the mailbox was right down there across the railroad track, and they would go get mail. And they would come back through there, and they'd holler at me. We were living in the other house over there, and it had a big screened-in front porch. And I would have Carolyn there with a door latch, and she had a huge area to play. And, you know, we would watch her, and they said, can we come see the baby? And I said, please do. And they would come over there. And I'd say, now this is Carol, my little girl. And they would pick her up and hold her and love her. So we became good friends with all of them. We knew the washwoman. We knew every one of them. And they always wanted to come down and help do anything, yard work. And I didn't know what all we needed done, you know. But I would just look around and try to figure out, what can they do? Oh, yeah, they can do this. But anyway, they soon learned to wash windows and things like that to help me out. But I loved the little house. I think Carol liked it as well as this house. But we loved it because it was just like you could do anything you want to over there, really. And one day Carol says, I think I'm going to get me a little pack and put on my back and leave and go.
I was running away.
I think I'm going to leave and run away because something didn't suit her or something, or it didn't suit me. And so we stood there on the porch a little while, and I said, nah, I'm going to handle this. And I said, well, okay, don't stay too long. I just said it like that.
And you packed my lunch.
And, yeah, I packed her lunch.
Tied
had
it in
little broomstick handles.
Tied it in a handkerchief, tied it on a stick, and handed it to me and said, don't stay too long. So
And you know, she was surprised, you're not going to make me come back?
she didn't say, don't go.
Don't go, I'll miss you. I said, well, be careful. And, you know, I was telling all these things. I was hoping I was saying the right thing to draw her back. And she got out a little bit, and she would look back. She'd walk a little bit further. And then I think you said, I don't think I'll go today, or something like that. And so I said, well, come on back. And so we won't even till again. You know, you just have to keep doing that. You have to play mama and daughter and child and whatever, which I did do. I washed little dishes with her in her playhouse. I said, she's going to have a playhouse. The man came to build the playhouse, and we lived in the little house over there. You may have seen it coming in. But that little house had been a home for so many of the family members who lived in the country who had yet not built their home. And my father-in-law would let them live in the house until the next person needed it, until they built their home. And they finally said, my son's coming home, y'all got to move out. So when we came home, we moved in. And the big front porch just was a playground for my child.
It was.
And when the people would go through here getting the mail, which is right down over the railroad track, they would holler at me, hey, Miss Callie. I said, hey. And they said, well, we coming over there to see the baby, talking back here. I said, well, come on. I don't think they had been treated with that kind of invitation to come in your home like that, because obviously we're in young children out here at that time. So I said, well, y'all come on by. And they said, we can come in? I said, come on in. And they'd all pick her up and hold her up and look at her, and hug her and love her. And, you know, that was the beginning of my relationship with the people who grew up here on this farm. And, of course, they were so proud to be asked to come because their parents had known my husband's parents and grandparents. So it was just a kind of going thing. And we became real close. And you know, they like say, we can come over there and speak to y'all. I said, yeah, I want you to see my baby. And so they would come, and they became a part of my life as much as anybody else. And I invited them down and would give them breakfast sometimes, and it was great.
That's
You
great.
know, it was just a wonderful thing.
And you lived in that home while this home was being built, is that correct?
Well, we lived there until I was 10.
10.
Yeah.
10 or 11.
Let's see,
But it was a fun,
somewhere along in there.
it was a fun house to live in.
We could watch it go up.
Why don't you each tell us what were your dreams, goals, and aspirations as
You mean when I was
as young
in
women?
high
Before you
school?
were married, after you were married, some of both.
Well, we had some dance teachers that would come to our school in the afternoon and sign up for us to take dancing lessons. It was almost completely a part of the school, but they used, not a part of the school, but they used the school auditorium for their reviews and all that. And so Mother said, y'all want to take dancing? I said, oh yeah. I said, I could visualize my sisters and I dancing on the stage in New York and all this kind of stuff. We were just building dream after dream. And so Mother said, well, you can take dancing as long as y'all are interested in it. And we took tap and all that, and we had a special little number for each one of us to do, you know, the members. We had a wonderful time taking dancing and everything. Finally, that became old hat. So we said, we need to hang this up, Mama, Daddy. So we did, but it gave us a sense of rhythm and music and appreciation for those who could dance. I was amazed and I loved the tap shoes and all those fascinated us. And
right.
we would take ballet too. So we had a little bit of that, dancing lessons.
That's good.
And that was in my high school too.
That's wonderful.
So I enjoyed being introduced to all that.
That's wonderful.
I don't know that later on I would have ever had the nerve to get up and dance with other people then, particularly when you hit the real teenagers, you know.
Exactly. How about you, Carol?
Like Miss Watson, I am a Columbia College graduate,
All right.
and I had a good friend in high school who had a speech impediment, and my goal was to become a speech therapist, which I did. So it's nice to be able to have a goal and, you know, and to meet it. So,
That's wonderful.
and then always wanted to be a mother and a grandmother, and I am.
So that's what I want to ask you next. Tell us how you met your husbands and about having children, that part of your lives.
You want me to go for? I'll tell you. I met my husband at the University of South Carolina, and actually I met him through a good friend, who was a good friend of his too. So we started all going out together, and it sort of dwindled down to he would come over. My present husband then, he would come over to the sorority house and visit with all our sorority members, and we just had fun. He liked to dance, and he liked to do all kinds of things. He was interested in horse racing, everything, you name it. His interests were just wide open. So we had a wonderful time when you go out with him. You didn't just go sit in a movie or drive around the blocks and all that kind of. He always had something interesting for us to do. He would find out if a horse show was going on in Columbia, or we would go out of town to something. Every time he had something interesting for us to do. That was fun.
Great.
I met my husband on a blind date. My husband's father, Daddy, and the good friend that got us the date were all fraternity brothers. And so I met Monty on a blind date. And we dated for several years, got married right by our senior year in college. And he went to medical school, and we were in Charleston, went to Greenville for residency, and have never come back home.
Wow.
But
So you live in Charleston.
no, we live in Greenville.
Greenville.
He went to school in Charleston and
Okay.
then moved to Greenville, and we've got 3 children. Most of the men in my husband's family are bankers or doctors, and
Wow.
our boys are bankers, and our daughter works for the South Carolina Bankers Association. So
Wow, that's great.
we
That's great. You must be very proud.
I am.
So how about you? Tell us about your the early part of your marriage and having children and that kind of thing.
Excuse me. Well, when we were first married, my husband said, "Now you know we'll be living on a farm," and I said, "Yeah, that's right. You told me." And so the house wasn't ready that we were going to live in temporarily, so we moved in with his parents. For after we came home from Bermuda, we moved in with them for about. Well, it started out to be about a week, but it ended up being 3 months, and I was trying to adjust to a new husband and to some new in-laws and farm life, and my husband getting up at crack of dawn to go out to work, and I'm sitting in the little house over there. What do I do now? But I would try to cook these elaborate breakfasts. He loved to eat too, so that kept me busy. But I met all the black people that lived here on the farm, and we had a good time with them.
That's wonderful. So let me ask you about this. Tell us, what does motherhood mean to each of you?
Well, it made me realize what my mother had gone through in raising us, and it made me realize when she said no, she meant it, and I respected that, and so did my sisters. I had 2 sisters, one older, one younger, and we all 3. My dad always told us, "You be sure to do what your mother tells you to do. You better listen to her." And so we had that hanging over our heads all the time. Of course, not to speak of how you better listen to your dad, too. But he laid down some laws, which we abided by. And they were good. They weren't too strict, but you knew he cared about you. Mm-hmm. Later on, you could look back and see that.
Well, y'all didn't learn that because y'all were really strict with me.
What you think made us strict?
The way you misbehaved.
Of course.
Well, I think motherhood is a privilege, and
It is.
For me, it's the most special relationship you can have, and it's just that was another goal of mine, was to be a mother and a grandmother. So I just think it doesn't get any better than being a mother and a grandmother. Mm. But it is a privilege, and you do go through lots of hard times and lots of joyous times, as we all know. And I'm just very blessed to have the 3 children that I do have.
That's wonderful. How did you both become members of the South Carolina Mothers Association, the selection committee for the South Carolina Mother of the Year?
Well, Mrs. McNair was more or less in charge of some of those selections, but my husband was on the board of trustees at the university, and they were looking around all through the state to try to find people to represent most all of the areas in the in the state, which led them to all these people that ended up on the committee, which I thought was a good thing. Not just to pick a name. These were people that were more or less interviewed, because I remember when I was on that committee selecting, I realized the trouble that had been gone to select. These were special people who were mothers. I mean, think about South Carolina and all the wonderful mothers. You really had to find these with a fine-tooth comb. And it really was fun to look into the lives of all these people and to know what they had done, and not having known what they had done in the past. And here we were rubbing backs and talking to each other. Didn't know all the things that they had accomplished as being on that selection committee. And so you weighted heavily when you selected somebody. There are too many wonderful mothers out there to choose from. And, it was tough, because there are a lot of good mothers.
How many years did you serve, Callie? Do you remember when you first became a committee
I
member?
see, God, I can't even remember. When it was first started, and under Ms. McNair. And y'all remember? Well, y'all probably don't remember that either, because I was on there before.
Of everyone in this room, you're the earliest member.
Yeah, in this
Right?
room
You're the
right
first
now.
In this room. That's
Yeah.
great.
And I wondered what it was going to entail. And Josephine McNair, the governor's wife, was a good friend, And her husband had known my husband. I think they were in college part of the time. They were a little bit older than I, but they had been in college at the same time, and they had known each other earlier in life, in college life. And so they would let me in on all the things that they had done, and tried to tell me when I transferred from a girls' school to Carolina. I was at Limestone College and transferred down to the University of South Carolina. And my sister was already at the University of South Carolina. I wanted to leave, and I didn't want to leave. I wanted to know what it was like to live in a girls' school, and it was absolutely wonderful. And I almost cried when I was going to transfer, but I said, I've got to do it. This is one of my goals. I'd like to go to a co-educational school, so I transferred. Excuse me. And my sister was already in a sorority, so I joined her sorority. And the rest is history. So I met my husband there.
What field did you study at USC?
I was in retailing. I wanted to be a buyer. My dreams were to go, I loved fashions. And I took a lot of courses at Carolina that would introduce me to it, which made me like it even more. And I was thinking about going to Atlanta. I had an opportunity to go to Atlanta, start out decorating windows, and get into a little bit of selecting clothes, particularly women's fashions. That's what I liked. And so when I decided to do that, my husband Nat would take me to work there. And so, it just grew. Our relationship grew. He would come pick me up after work, and, we went out together. He loved football. I did too. We had a good time. And I think the university was just the right rounding off of my college life to be able to go to a girls' school and then to go to a co-educational school.
That's great. You got the best of both worlds.
I did. I really did. And my sisters enjoyed it likewise.
So, Carol, when did you get involved in the Mothers Association?
Gosh, I don't know how long ago it's been, but the Greenville representative, or the Greenville area representative resigned, and she was nice enough to nominate me to be on the committee. And I'd heard Mama talk about it, and I was delighted with the opportunity that we could serve on the same committee together. Mama usually did the tea at the mansion, and y'all were nice enough to let me do the tea too, so I got to work with her on that.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I wanted to ask you, so I'll ask you the broader question and you can give some specifics. How did your membership on the committee impact you, your family, and your community? And maybe in that you could talk a little bit about the activities like the teas at the governor's mansions and the things that you were directly involved with.
Well, I sort of inherited the teas for the
mansion.
Yeah,
the governor's
for
mansions,
the
that
mansion.
must have been great.
So I went early and said, can we always have the tea here? Because what better place than to introduce all these mothers, these previous mothers, plus their friends, to the governor's mansion. They were so pleased to come, as well as to see the Mother of the Year. They were pleased to come and see the rooms, and I could take them to all the rooms and tell them what the rooms were used for. And they said, we can walk around in here? And I said, yes, because I'd gotten earlier what permission I had to take them where. And always guided by one of us to take them into other parts of the house. Never upstairs, but downstairs. We were free to go around to all the rooms.
Not everyone gets that opportunity to
No.
to spend time in the governor's mansion.
Well, Mama certainly knows how to plan a party, and down to the last detail, and it was fun. It was fun to work with her on that. So I think we can plan a good party.
That's
if we
what I
need
heard.
to.
I heard great stories about the detail, the Callie, the care and attention you would give to the teas and to the food and the sandwiches and everything.
Oh, I had a meeting with the staff at the mansion. They said, we'll fix a good tea. I said, no, I want to know what you're going to be serving. And am I free to make some suggestions? I said, I've seen
Are
biscuits
you
that big.
free to tell them exactly what to do?
Amen. Because they had served biscuits that big one year, and I said, how do you eat that? You have to cut that one. And I had a few suggestions for them to make. I even went in the kitchen and told them. But anyway.
She did.
If you're going to put me in charge of it, I don't want my name to be on it if it's all done wrong. And
You made sure it was all done right, down to the flowers too. I
Yeah.
think there was one incident where the florist didn't come through, and Mama went in the garden at the mansion and just snipped a few branches, and before you know it, it was beautiful in there.
We put it on the dining room table. They said, where did y'all get these flowers? I said, from a new florist. But anyway, I didn't say much more, and then finally they knew we'd gone out in the yard and picked all her pretty flowers, and she didn't care, really. She probably didn't know what flower was out there, but anyway. And we had a real good time having
We
those
did.
teas, because I said, you have got to put it down on a level where it's not so stiff and people can enjoy themselves. I said, talk when you go through the receiving line. And they started doing that. We could hardly get the receiving line over. But I thought it was be more about visiting with the people who came, who gave up their time to come meet this mother and to enjoy meeting her friends. And we stood around and went from room to room trying to help people to feel welcome. Because I know one lady from China was there, and she was sitting in a dining room chair up against the wall. I said, what are you doing sitting there? She said, well, I
Come
don't
meet
know.
everybody.
She said, I don't know everybody here. I said, you don't have to know but one person. Get up. And so we went around the table, and 40 minutes she had a big smile on her face. And I said, just a lot of people are just like you. They don't know anybody else here, too. Just weed your way around and have a good time. I said, go out on the porch back there and get ice water or tea. Come get coffee here. And, you know, if you just give them the go-ahead to feel free, to enjoy people as well as food. I said, some people concentrated on the food. Other people didn't want to do anything but visit, which is wonderful.
I sure feel like I missed out because I have never participated in a Mother of the Year award tea at the governor's mansion.
Well, you know, when they first said we could have it there, I said, well, I want to know what they're going to do and what they're going to serve. I said, y'all not going to put those pull-down coffee machines up there, are you? And
She
see,
did, I will have to say.
I did ask them that.
Well,
What?
they put some inappropriate stainless steel things on the table, and Mama went back there and polished a few trays and pulled out all the good silver. So
They showed me where the silver was in a closet. I said, you should have been using that instead of this. She said, you're going to be in charge of the tea next year. I said, maybe.
I love that.
But,
do you know how long the teas at the governor's mansion continued and when they stopped?
Oh, goodness.
Well, they
My
stopped
husband
2
got
years
sick.
ago. They stopped 2 years ago, didn't
Mhm.
they? But I'm not sure how long they've been there. Probably.
Well, the first
20
time we
years.
had it, I said, can we have it here again? Josephine.
So
and,
who was the governor the first time when
Bob
the tea
McNair.
started? Yeah, I thought
That
so.
was on when you were first on
Yeah,
it.
when I was
First on.
First on it.
Okay.
Bob McNair. And Josephine, we had known because she lived about 16 miles from our hometown, Barnwell, and I had known her, and my family had known them, so
So I'm
we
gonna
knew them more than just meeting them.
That's so good. I'm going to switch gears a little bit and start asking you all just some general questions about women and mothers. So I want to get your opinions on these. What do you think are the most important issues facing women today?
Well, I think women have come into the world a little bit more year by year, have eased in to more positions that only men knew. And now they're speaking out, and I think they have something to say. And being a woman, I wouldn't think that naturally, but still, that's not just because I'm a woman. I think they really have something to say. They haven't been heard for a long time, and now they are. And I just think it's beginning to be more equal about opinions and things like that for men and women.
Well, we were talking about this last night, and what Mama said last night was she thought the hardest thing facing women was balance between their careers, because most women work now. But she said balance between career, family, church, and then she added, and your husband. So the husband was a different category altogether, but she and I both agree on that. We feel the same way about that.
Well, I had that exact question, so you guys
the church.
led right into what I was going to say is what are some of the challenges you both face trying to balance work inside the home, work outside the home, volunteerism, community, family, husband, children, and how do you think the women of today, do they have the same challenges, different challenges? Talk a little bit about that question of balance.
I think they face maybe more challenges because more women work. My daughter-in-law went back to work after both of her children, after the first two were born, but now she's able to stay home. And I was fortunate that I worked until I had children. And, life is real different now than it was then. And it's...
It is. I think it is, too, because I can look back through my life and hearing what my mother had to say, and then looking through Carol's life and now her children, the families that they have. So
and your great-grandchildren.
Oh, yeah. Can't leave out great-grandchildren. But anyway, it's just a wonderful, each step I think is wonderful. You think being a wife, I've got to do everything for my husband, I've got to do this, that, and other. But then you have children, and your children, between the two of you, your children become so important, at least it did with us. And we wanted to take them everywhere we went. In fact, when we'd play cards at night with our friends, bridge, we would take her on a blanket and put her on when she was too little to crawl off of it.
That's right.
And stay there while we played bridge. And, we included them with every area of our life. It was just, if we started somewhere and we didn't have Carol, I said, I don't want to leave her at home, But we got to the place where we just knew that we had to have a little separation between mother and daughter and, grow that way too.
That's important as well. Do you think women's work and women's roles as mothers are adequately recognized by society?
I'm not sure about that. So many women have careers now. And I don't know. I guess they'll recognize more than they were in the past, but I'm not sure how I feel exactly about all of that.
That's a good
And
question. Maybe more now, but maybe still not as much as they should be. Is that what you think?
So many of them have all these careers, and a lot of people don't even know about it until it's introduced to society in a different way. And they say, I didn't know women could do that, And I think it's growing by leaps and bounds a little bit. I think, I don't know what you all think, but I think women are stepping out more than they ever have. And are able to seek their careers because their husbands help and a lot of other reasons.
Do you both consider yourselves working mothers?
Always. The engineer.
Always. How about, do you consider yourself a feminist? And what does feminism mean to you? Let's start with that.
Well, I was thinking about that when you asked that early, when I read about it a little bit. It just means a lot of things, I think. It's hard to really put a fine definition on it because a woman wants a career. She wants to be her right husband's wife. She wants to be the right mother. A lot of them do. Most of them do. I'm not sure how I feel about all of that, but
I think feminists used to have a bad connotation.
yeah.
And today I don't think it does. It's just being yourself and trying to achieve the goals that you want. And
you can speak out more without being so
Yeah.
criticized for it.
I agree with you. I think you're right. I think it's moved from potentially having a negative connotation with being about choice
Yeah.
letting women have the choice to be mothers, to have
Well,
careers, to not be mothers or not have careers, and to feel that they have a voice that
Yeah.
they can share with their husbands in their society, and to try to achieve their goal, set goals, achieve them, and maybe strive for equality in society.
Well, I worked a little while after I got out of school. I was in retailing, and I just thought it would be wonderful to follow that career. But, you know, it really didn't last that long because there was so much other in this world to explore, too. And just joining the clubs around my hometown here and knowing what all these women had done to further the women's groups here.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it worked out real good to have the women that be a part of that.
What kind of women's groups were you involved in your
Well,
community?
just like my husband was American Legion. Of course, we had to be the American Legion Women's Club, and it's that kind of the Lions Club. You had to be the Lions ladies. And while it was a good thing, I didn't especially want to have the meeting just because they had a meeting, but we did that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd go sit with some of the other men's wives, and I said, we got to do something about this. So we, formed a bridge club, and then we did other things. And I just sat.
Well, you also started the Brownie Scouts.
Oh, yeah, and when she came of age, I said, do y'all have a Brownie Scout around here? No. I said, okay, I'll be it because nobody else would take it. Not because I was a choice, but because nobody would take it, the Brownie Scout. And I just moved up, same way with her in Sunday school. They didn't have a little Sunday school class for her, so I went in and taught her class. When she moved to the next class, I went with her because there wasn't a teacher there. So they had to fill the needs of the class before her. Because they weren't getting me back unless I could take my daughter's have a teacher, But it was fun to follow her through everything like that. The
Beautiful.
Brownie Scouts, Girl Scouts, and like in Sunday school and Bible school, all those kind of things. We participated in all of that.
And the other thing you didn't say was Mama's been president of the Women of the Church for probably over 50 years.
That's because
Wow.
nobody else will take it.
So a great leader in your church and community and family.
Well, I won't
Yes.
say that, but
yes, she was.
I'll take a job when they won't, when nobody else
Else will
will.
take it.
And I'm
That's what
afraid
makes a
it'll
good
fall
leader.
apart.
It is.
I'm afraid it'll fall apart, and our church is small anyway. I can't let that do that.
Well, that's commitment and leadership.
And I came from a big Baptist church, so coming to the little Presbyterian church, I said, when all the members coming to church? This is it for the day. I said, oh my gosh. I said, well, I can't go to the Baptist church next week. I'll have to come back here. I'll help your church. I never, this is the honest truth, I never left the Presbyterian church to visit the Baptist church or any other church in town. I felt like, I'm just one less in this little church. It's about to fall apart anyway. But it really wasn't about to fall apart. There'd always been small membership.
Mm-hmm.
And those members stuck hard. So I
Small
stuck
but
to
strong.
'em.
Small but strong. Are there any questions from our guests in the room who might want anything I've
They
left
probably
out?
went through a lot of the same
In
things
terms of
I
mothers
did.
committees, Mothers of the Year, is there anything I forgot? Anything I need to follow up on? And if not, how about you guys? Is there anything else, any questions you have for us or any comments, anything else that you want to share about your experience being mothers on the Mother of the Year committee? Anything
Well, I
else?
think each phase of life is so wonderful. You think you know it all about the one you come into. You don't know anything. And Mother and Daddy don't know anything. Because I'd go sit at the foot of their bed and ask them a question, and Daddy would almost be asleep. I said, please listen, Daddy, I'm asking you a question. But it was just fun sitting on their feet right at the foot of the bed, talking to them. And I felt free enough to talk to my family about any situation when I'd go out on a date. And we would sit there and talk. And that's good.
That's right, that's good. Anything else?
It's just been a wonderful experience. I've
It
met
has.
so many new friends, and Martha and Boo, and meeting the Mothers of the Year. it's been a special experience. A lot of friends I wouldn't have met otherwise.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you both. Thank you for opening up your home and your time and your lives, sharing with us today. And I feel like I've become a part of the Mother of the Year family, the
Well, yeah, we'll
association.
make you a part.
Thank you for inviting me in to join. It's been a wonderful experience. I've met many new friends I would not have otherwise met.